Howdy guys, I'm Aiden and welcome to the Archive channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make a recording layout for OBS. Fair warning up front, this is not a settings tutorial. If you're looking for that, I'll have one I made linked down in the description below. I recommend actually watching that video before watching this one, as stuff covered there will apply here and vice versa. So you can consider this video a little bit of a part 2. This one's mainly going to be focused on scenes, sources, organizing stuff, and making OBS work for you, at least in terms of recording. Streaming's a whole different deal. All right, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. You'll notice I have this thing here called the scene tree. It probably looks different than what you're used to seeing, but don't worry, it functions identically. If you want to use this specifically, I'll show you how to download it and a bunch of other OBS plugins near the end of the video. Okay? Okay. With all that being said, let's go ahead and add a new scene. You can either hit the plus button or right-click, add scene, and we're going to name this recording for short. All right, this is probably what you're used to seeing, right? No sources, no audio, the scene transitions, and the controls. What do we do from here? Well, we're going to start by adding a bunch of different sources. I like to begin first with audio. So in order to do that, we're going to want to go up to audio input capture, and we're going to go ahead and add our microphone. So click on that, title it microphone, and then go to device and select the one that you use. Click OK. And now if you see that green bar moving up and down, that's how you know it ended up working. You can use this little slider to turn down the volume or turn it back up. You can mute audio sources, which is pretty nice. And you can even go in here and hide it if you don't want to see it in your mixer at all. If you want to bring it back up, right click, unhide all, and now everything will show up again, including some stuff that isn't relevant to this tutorial. So there it goes. I think first up, we're going to do Discord, if that's cool with you guys. So again, you can hit the plus button or right click. And this time you're going to want to go to Application Audio Capture Beta. I know it says beta, but don't worry about it. It's perfectly fine. So you have a create new tab. You're going to want to go ahead and title that Discord or Discord Audio. I've already done this before. And then go to Window and make sure Discord is open. Also make sure you're probably in a call and select that window. And you'll know it's working again if you see that little green bar bouncing up and down. I'm not really in a Discord call right now, so it's probably not going to show up for me. But hey, what are you going to do? All right, next thing we're going to want to do is to add our capture card. To do that, you're going to want to find Video Capture Device. Name this to whatever it is. Mine is an Elgato. Okay, and we don't want this one, so let's change it to HDMI 2. There we go. If it's not working and showing up for you, you can hit this deactivate and activate button, which will refresh things. Resolution, it's set to device default, and that should work for you, but if you notice if it's not the correct size, you can go to custom and manually type it in. Just be sure your capture card can actually support it. So 1080p or 4K and go from there. I'm gonna leave it on 1920 by 1080p. Oh look, it already filled it out. You can also change the FPS. The highest you can go is 60, and then the lowest is 25, but you can pick a bunch of different stuff in between, which is kind of cool in my opinion. All right, video format, leave alone. And then color space and color range, if you followed my settings tutorial, you should leave this on default because it will go based on those settings. But the long and short of it is color space should be set to Rec 709 unless you're recording HDR or anything like that. And color range should be set to limited. If you have it on full, make sure your settings also has it on full. A mismatch will cause the saturation to look wrong one way or another. It'll either be oversaturated or undersaturated. But because we set them up appropriately, we're going to leave it on default. Don't worry about this for now. We're going to deal with it later. The main thing we're concerned with right now is audio. And as you can see, we have another source added to the mixer, which is dope.
All right, here's where things get a little bit more complicated. Typically, this is where you would add your PC speakers. The issue is that OBS by default can't differentiate all the different audio sources that are coming out of your PC. It'll combine your Spotify, your YouTube, your Discord, and your system sounds into one big audio source, which isn't very helpful when you're trying to adjust levels and such. To fix this, you're going to want an OBS plugin called Wind Capture Audio, and if you want to know how to install that, you can skip ahead to the end of the video. To start, we're going to go ahead and hit this add button down here. It's called Application Audio Output Capture. The beta one you see here is actually the same thing, but this one was implemented by the OBS team, so you know it's pretty legit. All right, and we're going to go ahead and title this one Speakers. Click OK. You'll notice the modes here are pretty interesting. You can capture audio sessions from a selection of executables, so everything that appears in this list will capture the audio directly from it. There are other options. This one in particular allows you to capture a foreground window with a hotkey, and then this one down here captures all audio except sessions from this list. So it'll ignore everything in the list and capture everything else. This is what you're going to want. So go ahead and add executables for Discord, Spotify, YouTube, and everything else. Then use the application Audio Capture Beta to manually add those back in. So add in Discord, Spotify, and YouTube that way.
Then we're going to use the same sort of principle. We're going to go back up to Application Audio Output Capture. And then this time we're going to do PC games. So in this one, we're going to leave it on the normal capture audio sessions from a selection of executables. And then what you can do is open up each of your Steam games that you stream one at a time and add it onto the list. By doing this, anytime you reopen these games, this is going to know, hey, I need to capture audio from it, which is way more helpful than having the preferred option where you go into output capture and you select the game. And then if you switch to another game, you got to reset it and do it over and over again. This saves so much time. And if you're willing to put in the work to set it up once, then you probably won't ever have to do it again. Uh-oh, I forgot to name it PC Game Audio. That's fine. You can just right click, hit rename, and title it PC Game Audio. All right, there we go. All right, now we have our audio sources. If you want to organize them a little bit further, you can right click, add, and then go to group. This is kind of acting like a folder. I'm going to go ahead and name it audio group, hit OK, and then put all of our audio sources in there. So the PC game audio, the speakers, the Elgato, the Discord audio, and the microphone. And then when you shut it, look how nice that looks. That's so much better. And you can still control it via the audio mixer, thankfully. We don't actually want the Elgato in there because that's a visual source. So to drag it out of a group, you want to bring it down to the bottom, click and hold, and then drag it underneath. And you'll notice it moves slightly to the left. That means it's out of the group. All right, one last thing on audio, and then we're done. You see these little gears right here? This brings up the Advanced Audio Properties tab. Go ahead and click it. All right, you notice we'll have a bunch of different options in here, including volume, the ability to make any track mono. You can balance audio from the left side or the right side. You have sync offset, which is pretty cool. So if your microphone's not matching with the words you're saying, you can adjust the sync to fix it. Then we have audio monitoring. Monitor off by default means the audio won't be going to your headphones, but it will be going to your stream and any recordings you make. If you select monitor and output, then you'll be hearing the audio in your headphones as well as outputting to your stream and recording. Last but not least, we have monitor only, which means you can hear it, but nobody else will. I like for my game, like Elgato, to set it to monitor and output. That way I'm able to hear my game and it outputs. Some people like to be able to hear their microphone, but I don't bother.
Last but not least is the track section. You'll recall in my OBS settings guide, I talked about how YouTube and Twitch can only receive one track of audio. We set that up as track 1 in that video. So let's go ahead and uncheck everything else except for track 1. That way your stream will be able to hear all your audio sources. This isn't really helpful for recording videos though. All you're going to end up with is a video file where all your audio is stuck in one channel and you can't manually adjust anything, which sucks. Thankfully, you can separate them to different tracks. So let's, for instance, put our microphone on track 2. What do we want to do? Let's put our speakers on track 3. We can put Elgato on track 4, our Discord audio on track 5, and then our PC game audio on track 6. Now when we're done recording, you'll have 6 tracks of audio and you can manually adjust your microphone, your game, or your PC. It's way better.
All right, now we're done with audio. Let's go ahead and add in our visuals. We already started with our Elgato, but you can notice it's not quite right. There's a reason for that. We have a 1440p canvas, but the highest my Elgato can record is 1080p. That's fine. There's an easy fix. Go ahead and click on your source, and when you see the red bars, right click, go to transform, and then you're going to want to go ahead and click the fit to screen option. This will move everything and automatically scale it for you. You also have other options like a stretch to screen. You can flip it vertically or horizontally, or maybe you made it small in your scene for a specific reason, but you're trying to center it, but you can't quite get it right. That's fine. You go to transform and you have a center to screen option, and bam, automatically does it for you. Once you decide that you don't want to move your source anymore, a good way to keep it from sliding around is to lock it. That way you can no longer accidentally adjust it. If you want to readjust it, that's fine. Just be sure you unlock it first, and then you can move it again. Now our Elgato's set up, let's go ahead and add in our monitors. I have 3 monitors, unfortunately, so this is going to be a little bit of a pain in the ass, but that's fine. If you want to add any monitor, go ahead and go to Display Capture, and be sure you name them appropriately, that way it's a little bit more organized. I'm going to start with my main monitor, monitor 1. Capture method automatic, go ahead and select that, and click OK. Alright, it's looking a little crazy because I'm recording OBS right now. You can just ignore all this. Go ahead and hide that. Bring it down underneath the Elgato, and then add in our second monitor. Title this one Monitor 2. This is cool here. You can actually choose whether or not you want to capture the cursor. I do in particular, so I'm going to leave it on, but feel free to click it off if you don't want it. And again, this one isn't sized correctly because it's 1080p. Right click, transform, fit to screen, lock it in place. All right, one more time now. Display capture. Title this one Monitor 3. Same process, right click, transform, fit to screen, and then lock it in place. All right. Now we can move these things down here, and basically how it works is the source that's showing is the one that's on top. So here we have monitor 3 on top, so that's the one it's showing. You don't have to worry about audio sources showing up at all because there's no visuals, so you can move that wherever and it won't impact anything. But for your visual sources, try to order them from most used to least used. That way it's a little bit easier to read. Next up, let's go ahead and add in our PC games. So you would think display capture would work fine. After all, it's covering our monitor, but it's not very resource efficient. So you actually instead want to select game capture. You can go ahead and title this PC games. Oh, name's already in use. Okay, title it PC gaming. Any PC gamers out there? All right, so for mode, you can just leave it on any full screen application and it'll just pick up on that, which is good. You can also choose to capture audio from it, but I like having it be a separate process. Capture cursor is also available here too, which is cool. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off for games specifically. So the way this will work, again, when you click on a game, it'll go into capture any full screen application. However, if that's not working for you, you can change the mode to capture specific window. Then when you're in a game, you can go out here and select the window you want captured, which is the method I end up using for the most part. Last but not least, let's go ahead and add our camera. After all, we want to see this beautiful face, right? Go to video capture device, and we're going to go ahead and title this camera. Now, my capture card that I use to capture games is the exact same as the one I use to capture my camera, which is fine. You can add in the same capture card multiple times. It's not really resource efficient to do it this way. In fact, it'd be better off if you had a source clone, but that's another plugin and one that I don't think is necessary all that much. All right, we'll go ahead and put CamLink Pro HDMI 1, and there we are. You'll notice this one is a lot bigger because my Sony camera captures in 4K. That's fine, fit to screen. And you'll notice my ass is blabbering and not matching the words I'm saying. And that's because this entire thing is recorded post-com. My audio fucked up in the recording, which is kind of cringe. All right, so an idea you're probably having in your head right now is we should add this all into a group, right? No, you don't want to do that. The issue with adding a bunch of visual sources into a group is that if you decide to adjust anything, it's going to adjust everything in the group, which you don't necessarily want. I instead decide to just organize it in a way that makes sense. In fact, if you're real particular about it, you can go in there, add a source, and just title it with a bunch of different lines. And that way you can space things apart, and that'll look much nicer. So now we have a bunch of lines. If you don't want to make that source again, that's fine. You can copy and paste. I recommend pasting as a duplicate rather than a reference. If you paste as reference, any changes you make to the original will be applied to the second one, which can get pretty confusing later on if you don't remember that. The only issue with duplicates is that they can't be named the exact same thing. So in this case, I'm just going to add a couple of extra dashes so you don't confuse it, and lock it off and then go from there. With all that being said, we've made a very basic recording scene. So let's say we're going to be doing a gameplay video, for instance. All right, so let's hide our camera. Let's get rid of the monitor. Let's get rid of PC gaming. And for the audio, all we want is the Elgato and the microphone, so we can hide the rest of these. Now I want to do a video where I'm in a Discord call with somebody. Okay, so let's enable monitor 3. Let's enable Discord audio and mute the Elgato. Okay, so now we have microphone audio, the Discord audio, and the Discord monitor showing up on our screen. Once you've made this very basic recording scene with all your different sources, you can adjust them to your needs without having to get rid of this one scene. How do we do that exactly? Well, let's show you with an example. Let's begin by taking our scene, click duplicate, and then rename it to something that makes sense to you. In our case, Discord, camera, and then hit OK. And now we have an exact copy of our original scene, but with the caveat that we can change anything we want and it won't affect the original. We can unlock our camera, mess with the size, bring it down a little bit, and now we have a completely different scene. But I think actually we can make this a little bit nicer. The way we're going to have to go about it, though, is by using OBS plugins. Hey, Aiden from the future here. I didn't properly explain it, but I made that transition with the Move plugin. I won't be able to explain how to set it up in this video, so I'll leave a link to a great tutorial down in the description below. Anyway, let's get back to the video. I'm going to start first by taking our original camera scene, going to transform, fit to screen so that it's full screen again. Then I'm going to right click and go to filters. And the first plugin we're going to want to add is Finite Singularity's Advanced Mask. And whoa, what happened here? It made it really small. Well, that's because we have to adjust the mask to fit. You can go to width here, and you're going to want to stretch it out until it's almost full, but not quite. Make it just a little bit smaller than full screen. You're going to want to do the same to height, and you can manually enter these numbers here if you want. Once we have a mask, we now have to add our border. In this case, we can use the Stroke, Shadow, and Glow plugin from Finite Singularity as well. Go ahead and select Stroke, name it whatever, and then we can drag this line up and get us with a pretty nice looking border, in my opinion. All right, finally, let's go ahead and add a drop shadow, again from the same plugin. Click OK, and there we go. That one looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and close. And then what we can do is resize our camera to fit it in that exact same spot. And look how clean that looks. Alternatively, if you don't want to do plugins, you can add your own images as well. So if you want to make your own border, put that into a group and then resize it appropriately. All right, if you want to switch back to your original scene, it'll work fine, but just remember that you have to turn off those filters. That way they're not interfering with everything. With that knowledge, you should be able to resize and refit and change and make a bunch of different layouts while still having that original. And you can use this sort of as a baseline to get really creative. What if you wanted a scene with your camera in a gameplay? Or what if you wanted all 3 monitors and your camera in the middle? You can make whatever you want, and I hope you use this to make recording simpler and easy so you can save time later on having to edit it all together. All right, I got one more thing to show you, and that is how to install OBS plugins. All right, now we're in the final part of the video where I show you how to download OBS plugins. There are many different ways of doing this. You could go to the OBS forums and manually search through the plugins yourself. You could watch YouTube videos that'll show you how to download them. This right here is what I think is the easiest method. So I'll have two links in the description below, both to Ko-fi. One is for the StreamUp plugin installer, which, as you can see, gives you the most common plugins and the ability to install them pretty easily. And then the OBS plugin updater, which will let you know when it's time to update said plugins. You can put in whatever dollar amount you want, anything from $0 to $500 billion, or somewhere in between, so you can properly support the work if you want to. I'm just going to go ahead and put 0 on here and hit Get Now. And then once you have both of these, go ahead and put in your email address and any name, and then go ahead and check out. Okay, now we've checked out and we got both of our items. So we're going to click this button right here. And you will have to make a My StreamUp account. Don't worry, they're not going to harass you with a bunch of stuff. Just go ahead and make an account and log in. All right, from there, you should have any of your products that you've downloaded before. For you, it should just be StreamUp Plugin Installer and OBS Plugin. I have two other ones here that you can ignore. Anyway, let's go ahead and download them. Start with the plugin installer, hit save, and then our OBS plugin, we'll hit save. All right, I'm going to start first with the plugin installer. Click on more info, run anyway. All right, and then once it connects to the StreamUp API, we should have a list of all these different plugins. Which ones should I download? Well, there's a bunch of handy little options. Required plugins are ones that work specifically with StreamUp products. Recommended are nice to have, and then required and recommended combines both lists. However, if you just want the ones I showed in this video, you can click Custom, Clear Selection, and manually add the ones you want. So in my case, I want Advanced Mask, Move, Scene Tree View, and then Stroke, Glow, and Shadow. Next, you're going to want to put a folder for these to download to. Hit this little folder icon, and I recommend making a new folder and calling it Plugins for short. Select Folder, then we can click Download Plugins, and it's going to go ahead and download them for you pretty quick. Then we're going to click Open Download Folder, OBS Studio, click that, and then we're going to move this over to the side. Now you're going to want to open up another file and move that over to the left side. Now I'm going to show you where to put your OBS plugins. Start with this PC, go to your main local disk, then click on Program Files, and then you're looking for OBS Studio, which is a bit hard when you have a bunch of different programs like me. There it is. All right, so here's where we want to be. Go ahead and take your data and OBS plugins and drag them on over, drop them in. Now for me, I've already downloaded these plugins, so it's telling me to replace the files in the destination. However, for you, it should be in installing them. Fair warning, don't install OBS plugins while OBS itself is open. Go ahead and close that down first, then go ahead and do it. Howdy, Aiden from the future here. I originally wasn't planning to show you how to download plugins from the forum. It's a pretty self-explanatory process. However, I noticed that the StreamUp plugin installer does not have wind capture audio that we ended up using in this tutorial. So I figured I can show you how to get it real quick. If you go to OBS Project Forum Plugins, you have all the list of available plugins, so you can search through there and find the one you need. I already have it pulled up here, Wind Capture Audio. Click Go to Download, and sometimes you'll get a GitHub page like this rather than a normal download screen, which is kind of unfortunate. Go ahead and click on just the regular beta zip. You don't want the setup file. That will download perfectly fine right there. Open that up. Go ahead and open up another file. Move this one over to the left, this one over to the right.
And then last but not least, go to Program Files, OBS Studio, take Data and Plugins, and drag it in. That way, now you finally have the last plugin that I showed you. StreamUp really should add this though, for real. So, click back on Downloads, go to our plugin updater, Windows, and it's a similar folder like earlier. Take this data, OBS plugins, and then move it over, just like that. If you want to check and see if all of those plugins installed, I can show you, although it's going to be a bit of a mess, so work with me here. First, you can go to Tools, StreamUp, and check for plugin updates, and this will let you know if any of your plugins need to be updated. This window will also show up every time you launch OBS, so it gives you a pretty good idea. We're going to go ahead and hit OK. As far as the other plugins are concerned, we're going to go ahead and go to a source, click Filters, then this little plus button, and you should be able to find most of what you've installed here. So here's Advanced Mask, Move Action, Move Source, Move Value, then Stroke, Shadow, and Glow right here. As far as the scene tree dock is concerned, we can close that. It'll be found here in Docs and then Scene Tree. And you can put it on here and get rid of the original scene dock since you no longer need it anymore. Anyway, that's it for this tutorial. Thank you all so much for watching, and be sure not to ask any questions because I'm not going to answer them. All right, bye-bye.